Welcome to BC Brew on Tap from Mahoney & Sons at Canada Place. Nick Nazarick is the assistant brewmaster from Strathcona Beer. Strathcona Brewing, one of the newest entries in the East Vancouver beer scene. And Nick, I don't even know, how do you keep track of new breweries in East Vancouver? How do you do that?
It's really hard. Well, you know, there's a lot that come out every day that we don't even know about. You just kind of got to stay on top of it. There's a really nice in-depth craft beer scene here in Vancouver. There's a lot of people that live here that truly do love the craft beer scene, and it really does make it Vancouver the Portland of Canada.
Now, you're relatively new. I mean, within the last few months, last half year certainly. Obviously, you'd already seen a proliferation of breweries springing up. Was there ever any thought that, I don't know, maybe there's enough in already, or is it like, no, there's room for plenty more?
Well, from a marketing perspective, I guess you always have to kind of look at it and you have to see there is quite a big number of breweries here, and there is a large market share that's taken up by that. But I think it's really just about doing what you love, and if you do what you love and you make good products, then the sales will follow that, and that's kind of what we're going for here.
So when you're decide to go all in, and like we're going for it, we're doing another brewery in Vancouver, never mind in East Vancouver. What do? Do you kind of look at the market and see these guys are doing this and these people are doing that? Here's where we're going to find our lane?
Yeah, well, here we have a lot of really in-depth, really high IBU beers. Like, people are going really crazy trying to make really strong beers, things that are not only like really hoppy but also high in alcohol. And on the West Coast, that's the West Coast style. Like, you look at styles like a West Coast IPA or a Northwest IPA, and those are typically very strong, typically very high bitterness. We're kind of going towards a more traditional style. Like, our IPA is a British style IPA, so it's not nearly as high IBUs. It's not that like kicker in your face, super bitter beer, but more traditional, those English kind of characters, a little bit more malty and a little bit darker.
For those that are unfamiliar, IBUs are to beer what Scoville units are to hot peppers, and what Richter scale is to hurricanes and earthquakes and all that sort of stuff. So tell us about the IBUs, and what is, for an entry-level beer fan, what is a relatively safe level of IBU, and where's the bar? What is like way over the top?
Well, it kind of depends on the style. IBUs are all about balancing your malt and the malt bill and your unfermentable sugars with the bitterness of how much hops you're actually putting in and how much of these hops are being converted into their most bitter form. So it really depends on the style. With a pale ale, you're probably looking at anywhere above 35 is a good place to get into it. If you're going higher than 40, 45, that's going to be pushing people who don't have a large palate for that kind of beer yet. That's going to be pushing their boundaries. If you get up above 60, above 70, it's going to be
highway to the danger zone.
Yeah,
is that where you're at?
It's going to be getting into people's thresholds that maybe who aren't familiar with those kind of hobby beers. It's going to not be a pleasant experience for them.
Now, I've talked to you before, and I know that similar to so many others that are in the beer business now, you started in the home brewing thing. Yeah. It was you and your dad, is that correct?
Well, my dad's been home brewing for 35 years, and I went to school for biochemistry and chemistry. So he kind of asked me when we started this to go in together and help him use his art with my science and kind of brew together that way.
But do you ever find that, okay, you know what, step aside, Dad, this is my time to shine? Are you guys on the same page, or can you have like disparate styles of beers that you enjoy but find a way to find common ground?
For sure we can do both of that. Like, my dad, he brews a lot of very traditional Belgian style beers very, very well, and it's something that I haven't had as much experience in, whereas my experience tends to come more with making more hoppy beers and more typical West Coast styles. He goes more traditional with his Bavarian beers and his lambics and things like that, whereas I kind of get more into the new age, like kettle sours and things like that.
For a relatively new brewery, when Strathcona opened its doors, you opened your doors with like a whole varietal supply, okay? So what basically are you known for? What was beer number one, and what is the range of beers in the Strathcona family right now?
Well, right now, definitely our most popular sellers are Gold, and we've had that since day one. We also have a premium Czech style Pilsner, which we've been working on over the past couple months. Those are our two main sellers, as well as our British IPA is also actually selling very well. Kind of just because, like I was saying, it's not your typical Northwest really super hoppy IPA. Like, it saturates the market here a lot. It's a little bit different, a little bit more malty. But I think one of the ones that we started with that really kind of came through was our dark mild, and that wasn't something that was normally typically a summer style, but it was so well received when we made small batches of it, we had to kind of put it out there, and it became one of our main four.
Now, when you open your doors and you are at Hastings and
Campbell,
okay, and you've got a really impressive facility, as I've told you before. But when you open your doors, who generally is walking in? Is it folks in the neighborhood, or are you getting like the beer community, the beer nerds, the beer bloggers? Are people coming from far and wide?
It's a little bit option A, a little bit option B, right? We have a lot of people from the neighborhood come in. There's not like usually when people are from the neighborhood, they're coming in stopping for a growler. They're on their way home from work. They're like, oh, they got off the bus. They're like, oh, hey, coming in, grabbing a beer and going home, or grabbing a pizza and going home, which is it's a big thing as well. Pizza and a beer to go.
I've heard tell. Yeah, I got to come down there and we'll split a pizza one day.
Yeah, definitely.
That's pretty good. So business is good, and there's plenty room for more breweries, I guess, because there's no shortage of these things popping up anytime soon.
Yeah, well, you know, we're really happy how things are going around. We're still waiting for our full license, but it's coming soon, so that should help us pick up business a little bit. You know, it's fall now. We're trying to get into a little bit more darker beers, getting away from we had a quite wide selection of summer beers, and they were all fairly well received. But now it's time to get a little bit more creative, I think.
One final question: if I'm walking in the doors at Strathcona Brewing, what is that one beer I must try?
I gotta say right now, if it's in the next couple of weeks, it's gotta be our double pale ale, our fresh hop double pale ale. So it's kind of a beer that I designed to be halfway in between, like a kind of like, well, it's almost like an opposite of a session beer. So it was rather where session beer is really low alcohol, high flavor. This is like medium flavor, but a good amount of flavor, but high alcohol, and it's something that's good for the fall months. And
Pour me one of those with a pizza. Nick, pleasure, man.
Thank you very much, Jeff.
Cheers. More BC Brew on tap from Mahoney & Sons coming up.
Host hair services for Joe Leary and BC Brew on tap, provided by Bailey Murphy of Avant Garde Hair Studio in Yaletown at 1075 Mainland Street. For a list of services, call 604-688-1986 or online avantgardehair.com. Location services for BC Brew on tap, provided by Mahoney & Sons at Canada Place. For a list of locations, visit mahoneyandSons.com.
Welcome back to BC Brew on Tap from Mahoney & Sons at Canada Place. Our guest is Karen Westmacott, who has a couple of really cool titles. Number one, she's production and quality specialist of Red Truck Beer Company by day, but she also has another title, and you're a certified Cicerone. So
it's like my superpower.
It is your superpower, exactly. Karen, let's break this down. First of all, when you hear the term production and quality specialist of a beer company, that would tell me that you're kind of sciencey.
I am kind of sciencey.
Okay.
When you think about brewing, people automatically think of the brewer, and of course those are kind of the rock stars of the industry, but there's also all of the work that has to go on behind the scenes to support that work, and so part of that is having a quality program. Part of that is a safety program. How do you train people who are coming into the business? You know, what do you do to make sure you're being efficient and all of that kind of work? And so that's what I do. Inventory control, there's all sorts of stuff.
Okay, so walk me through your day-to-day. I've been to the Red Truck facility. It's a pretty impressive plant, but you work out of a lab.
I do, yes. I work.
So are you wearing like a white lab coat? Are you that specific or not quite that advanced?
I don't actually wear a lab coat,
okay.
But yeah, we have a great lab at Red Truck, and so we do, we have a testing program. So I mean, day in, day out, we're setting up our production, making sure that we're meeting our orders, checking in on the brewing side of things to see if we're on track there, and then testing everything that we have in progress, making sure that nothing has gone sideways. I mean, brewing is a fantastic science, and it's fairly controlled, but you're also dealing with yeast, which is an organism. And
okay, so Karen, when you have a facility such as Red Truck and a full bottling and canning line, one thing I've always been curious about, do you every so often just walk down to the line and pull this can or that bottle, pour and taste, or are you doing that well before it gets to that point?
We're doing it constantly, actually. Part of it is as we begin a production run and we bring the beer over from our bottling tanks, you're testing it right there to make sure that it's as fresh and beautiful as it was in the bottling tank. There's a number of things that can go wrong when you move beer from one site to another. So we do it before the run starts. We do it every couple hours, make sure everything's just going well. We do inspections all along the way. So.
Okay. Now, as I said, you've got a couple of really cool titles. The other is Certified Cicerone, and this, for those that are untrained, a Cicerone is the beer equivalent of a sommelier.
Yes.
And there are now 4 levels of Cicerone across Canada.
Yes.
Of which they've just created, you believe, didn't they create like level 4 recently?
Yeah, in 2015, they put a level between the certified, which is level 2, and the master, which is now level 4, because it was such a big jump to go from the certified Cicerone level to that master level. So they put in a kind of an intermediary one. So it's a brand new testing level. I think there's only one in Canada right now.
Okay, now you're in a fairly limited category yourself,
Yes.
because across this beautiful land of ours, there's less than 100 of you people.
There's about 90,
90.
yes. Yeah,
Okay.
and of that, I think there's about 15 in Vancouver, and probably the next most populated area would be Toronto.
Okay.
So, yeah.
So now we've got a couple of different beers in front of us here, and I think part of the process of becoming a Cicerone is, I'm going to guess whether you're blindfolded, you're able to tell probably by smell, by taste. How important is smell to what it is that you do as a Cicerone?
It's really important because you talk about testing beer along the way, seeing if everything goes right or goes wrong. Off flavor identification is a really big part of the Cicerone exam. And part of it is, things can easily go wrong, and
Okay.
the fastest way to identify that is actually through taste and smell. So we've got all the scientific testing that we can do behind the scenes, but really, if you're talking about something like light struck, which if I leave these beers out, they will
Okay.
go skunky, and everybody's kind of familiar with that smell. If I leave them out to be exposed to light. And so the fastest way to identify that is actually just smelling it. There are chemical tests you can do, but it's just smell the beers.
Okay, well,
yeah.
I'm going to play to your knowledge here, because I can tell you that smells like beer. I can't tell you what is that?
Okay. So what we did is we pulled a couple of lagers.
Okay.
So they're the same style.
Oh, so it's all
Yeah.
log? Oh, I see.
So these
okay.
are all lagers, but
Right.
one of them is different. So
Okay.
when you talk about being able to identify beer by smell, part of it would be identifying really quickly if you're at a account and they've crossed the lines. And you're like, oh, that's not actually our beer. And so you can actually tell really quickly by smell. You would also do it by to do any recipe changes. If you want to make subtle changes, well, how big a difference does that make? So you'd actually do what I set up here it's called a triangle test. So 2 of these beers are the same, and one is
Oh.
different. So can you tell the one that's different? Yeah.
This one.
You're right.
Thank you.
It is different.
Well done.
Very well
Well
done.
done.
Very well done. So you might do that if you're thinking of changing the recipe a little bit. You'd like to try a different hop. You'd like to try different ratios of malts. And so you would do that and be like, okay, well, how big a difference does it make? And so you want your consumer to be happy with the beer that you're making. If they love the beer that you make and you're considering a recipe change, you'd be like, okay, well, let's do a test batch, set up a triangle test, and see if people can actually identify the difference. And so that's part of what Cicerones do.
Karen, one final question. We talked a little bit about this off air. I know the vessel in which you have the beer can really affect the taste of the beer. But for those people that think, okay, this beer belongs in a frosted mug,
Never
I had an
a
experience
frosted
recently.
mug.
No, but it so changed the taste of the beer that I was so accustomed to. I didn't know I was drinking the same beer.
Yeah.
It's amazing.
Yeah, no frosted mugs.
No-
It's,
no
you know,
frost- you heard
it's
it from
great.
Karen.
It's great for A&W and the root beer. No frosted mugs for beer, please. You're adding ice chunks. Oh, just don't. Please don't. For me,
I've
please
always-
don't.
I've hit a nerve. So obviously, when,
Yeah.
when you do your Cicerone tastings and testings, there's no chilled glasses.
There's no chill glasses.
Absolutely
no.
not. Karen, pleasure to talk to you. And just out of curiosity, can you enjoy a beer just on a sunny day on a patio, or are you constantly examining beer when you have one?
The first couple beer you probably examine a little bit more. I absolutely enjoy beer on a sunny day, and you can turn off the brain a little bit and just enjoy it.
Pleasure to see you again.
Always a
Cheers.
pleasure.
Thank
Thank
you,
you.
Karen. Karen Westmacott, who is the production and quality specialist of Red Truck Beer Company. This is BC Brew on Tap.
Host hair services for Joe Leary and BC Brew on Tap provided by Bailey Murphy of Avant Garde Hair Studio in Yaletown at 1075 Mainland Street. For a list of services, call 604-688-1986 or online avantgardehair.com. Location services for BC Brew on Tap provided by Mahoney & Sons at Canada Place. For a list of locations, visit MahoneyandSons.com.
Welcome back to BC Brew on Tap on Shaw TV. Now, my friend Richard Wallach, Vancouver food stir, trying to expand my horizons when it comes to pairing food with beer. Cool spot. Tell us where we're at, Richard.
QCQ Japanese barbecue.
QCQ, okay, it's on 4th Avenue in Vancouver.
It is.
And Chef
Hiro Amano, yeah.
Yes. Okay, so first of all, before we get into the beer, tell me about what this looks incredible.
Yeah, this is one of his new dishes. It's a roasted bone marrow with a char steam buns here and a bit of sauce, bonito flakes. So very, very interesting dish, very new, obviously, for them.
And Chef, you were telling us before about your background. It's pretty vast and pretty broad spectrum of places where you've cooked and styles and things like that. So when it comes to beer, and I know that you enjoy your beer, you've decided to pair this up with something from our buddies at Fuggles and Warlock.
I did. This is a very rich dish here, and the Imperial Sour from Fuggles and Warlock is a nice sour, acidic drink. It's thirst quenching, and it's a perfect match for something like this.
Okay, and this is the beer that they collaborated
It's
with.
called
the folks at Powell
Picare.
Street.
It's collaborated with the Powell Street Brewery and
Okay, well,
limited edition.
Vancouver Food Store,
Yeah.
dig in. I'm curious to
Yeah.
get your reaction to how all this pairs, because once again, you know, you've got some fairly rich flavors here,
Right.
and you want to find the beer that kind of complements that mix, not overwhelms it. Okay. So I'd be curious to get your take on how that blends with the beer that Chef has selected. Nice combination. It
Yeah,
works.
so it's sour, so it's got a bit very sour
Very
to it,
sour, yeah.
which is perfect with this dish.
Okay.
It's very fatty, so you want to cut it.
No, that looks good. That is dish number 1. Wow, Vancouver Food Store, dish number 2 from Chef Hiro looks darn interesting. What is this?
Truffle burrata hiyayaku.
Okay.
Can you get that in one mouthful?
No.
So it's basically a burrata, and it's actually, they've done a chicharron, but their chicharron is a chicken skin.
Okay.
Usually it's a pork, but they've done a chicken skin. So
Okay.
very, very interesting with a dashi broth.
Where did this concept come from, Chef?
Well, hiyayako is a very traditional summer dish in Japan. It's traditionally done with tofu. So in this case, we found some nice burrata from Italy, so we decided to bring it in and use it instead of tofu.
Okay, and you've paired it up with our friends from Fuggles and Warlock. This is a really good beer, the Strawberry Wit. What made you decide to put these two together?
Really, it's the burrata cheese and the fruit combination. Really, it's a very fruity beer.
It's a very unique flavor of a beer, and I will tell you. I mean, if you're liking to expand your beer horizon, I think you might want to try the Strawberry Wit. Tell me how it tastes together there, Richard. And then, of course, you pair that with the last strawberry from Fuggles and Warlock. And I noticed, just by the way, a little props to the guys at F&W there, because the tap handles are actually lightsabers. And of course, these guys, the guys behind Fuggles and Warlock, are admitted gamer nerds, and they decided that was the concept. They look pretty cool, don't they?
They do.
Yeah. How does that work together?
That's great. It's the strawberry part, and with the burrata together, and the dashi, I think, also a perfect pairing.
Well done. Dish number 2. Well, Vancouver Food Store, dish number 3 from QCQ, and it looks like Chef Hiro has hit another
He
home run
has
here.
done a
Unbelievable.
great job. So I mean, they specialize in skewers here, sukiyaki skewers. So here he's done really from a whole range. You've got lobster all the way down to Arctic char, and you've got pork belly and lamb and ribeye. So he's got the Pilsner here, and Pilsner can pretty much go with any of these, and that's what we're doing here. So
Okay, well, Chef, tell us about why you wanted to pair a Pilsner, because I mean, there's a pretty broad variety of meats here.
It's very true. Well, sometimes you just want to drink beer just to drink beer, and it's got nothing to do with the pairings and whatnot. In this restaurant, we have so many different kinds of flavors, starting from this end, chili side, to something more traditional like a Karachi flavor. And really, Pilsner, like Richard said, it goes with everything.
Well, why don't you pick
yeah,
something
so
and pair it up?
I'll go with the Arctic char in this case, and I think that'll.
And this is the
really-
Pilsner from Fuggles and Warlock.
correct. Yeah. Great good flavor.
Okay. Works.
It works.
Yeah. Yeah.
Light and light. It's a perfect
Yeah, and I think your point is valid. I mean, sometimes it's just about, I just want to enjoy a beer. It doesn't necessarily have to be paired perfectly. If you like the beer and if you like the food, why can't they two work together, correct?
That's right.
Yeah. Well, that's a really good cross-sampling of some very exotic dishes, maybe traditional in nature, but certainly not traditional in their design and their composition. So again, that's a really good showing of just how well beer can be paired with virtually any style of food, correct?
Especially in Japanese cuisine, yeah.
Well done, Chef. Thank you so much.
Thanks very much.
Vancouver Food Store, always a pleasure. And there's more BC Brew on Tap on Shaw coming up. Welcome back to BC Brew on Tap from Mahoney & Sons at Canada Place. Our buddy Smarty Pints, Mr. Jay Schreiber.
How you doing, Joe?
Always a good way to wrap the show as we learn more about styles of beer. What are you going to teach me today?
Today I'm going to teach you a little bit about fresh hops. Now, Joe, I know hops are something you've recently kind of gotten acquainted with over the last year.
Okay, well let me ask the basic question, because I do know what hops are. Hops are an integral part of beer.
Yeah, yeah.
As opposed to fresh, are there like stale hops, or what does the terminology mean?
You know, essentially around the time of September to October, you'll see a lot of breweries being releasing these fresh hop beers or wet hop beers. And the reason for that is it goes back all the way back to when the crops and the harvests were ready. So hops are a harvest that is typically ready September and October, and that's when you get the freshest hops, or the hops that haven't been dried, cured, and made into beer. So you get wet hops. It's considered wet versus dried and preserved. So a lot of beers that are made with this have a very predominant hop characteristic. People who like IPAs, ISAs, different type of hop characteristic, hop forward beers would really appreciate these styles.
Okay, so walk me through it. You've got 3 different samples here. What are we starting with?
Exactly. So I brought in Phillips wet hop beer, fresh hop beer. Now Phillips is a brewery I haven't given enough love to because they actually Matt Phillips helped to create the craft beer scene in Victoria. It was there, and really Phillips kind of exploded it. And it's now one of the largest breweries, commercially available craft breweries in British Columbia, based out of Vancouver Island. They have made a great empire for themselves. I love the branding. I love how all of their bottles, they have, just even looking at these bottles, they do more unique style of glassware. I really appreciate what they've done, and their fresh hop beers are always on point.
Postmark again from Vancouver in the East Van area.
East Van, Railtown area. Yeah, going to give a little love to Postmark. They've actually done a great job with their branding. I really appreciate the sort of West Coast feel that they have in their branding, and their beer has become appreciated across the whole province as well. If you ever get a chance to visit them, they're located down on Alexander and Dunleavy.
The Vancouver Urban Winery.
The Vancouver Urban Winery, yeah, same building, and they also have a Bellegarde kitchen, so it's kind of cool because you can get the wine, the beer, and the food, everything kind of all in one with the experience there.
Okay, and we returned back to the island for Lighthouse Brewing, but I'll tell you what impresses me. I love this package.
It's a fantastic
so
label.
Cool.
You know, it's kind of a throwback to the '60s psychedelic, that very Yellow Submarine, Beatles kind of reference. Lighthouse is a brewery which is sort of coming into a new renaissance for themselves. So doing their own kind of fresh hop beer and doing it in this style, I think they've really kind of hit the mark, and they're going to find a new market with consumers too, especially doing the unique fresh hop beers and doing styles like this and with this kind of branding. They're definitely going to reach a new market.
It's funny because, you know what, if you buy strictly on look, I'm
totally
grabbing that bottle. That is so cool.
I like it kind of simplistic. I would probably go for the Phillips myself, but that definitely there's a market for the Postmark too.
Mr. Smarty Pints, Jay Schreiber, always a pleasure, sir.
Thanks, Joe. Thanks for having me on.
Thank you so much. Thank you for watching BC Brew on Tap. And again, if you're going to enjoy all that BC has to offer, please remember, drink responsibly and plan a safe ride home. Thank you from Mahoney & Sons at Canada Place.
Clothing for Joe Leary and BC Brew on Tap supplied by Red Dragon Apparel, reddragonapparel.com. For BC Brew on Tap, this is Mike Schaefer.